Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we try to make sense of complex topics for you.
Cutting through the noise.
Exactly. And today, our focus is squarely on artificial intelligence. We're digging into the top 5 AI news stories from today, Wednesday, May 21st, 2025.
And what's really interesting, maybe even a bit meta about this one.
Go on.
Well, the research for this deep dive, even the script we're sort of working from, it was all generated entirely by AI.
Huh. AI telling us about AI. Okay, I like it. So let's see what the algorithms think is most important right now. Where do we start?
We start with a really big move in the hardware space, actually.
Okay.
OpenAI, they've just acquired IO. That's the AI device startup founded by, well, Jony Ive.
Jony Ive. Wow, okay. Former Apple design chief. The man behind the iPhone, the look of the MacBooks, that Jony Ive.
That's the one. And this isn't a small deal. We're talking $6.5 billion, all equity. It's OpenAI's biggest acquisition ever.
So an AI software giant buying a hardware design startup led by the design icon. What's the thinking there?
It seems pretty clear they want to shape the entire AI experience, not just the intelligence layer, but the physical device, the interaction itself.
Makes sense. And IO isn't just Ive, right? It's a team.
Yeah, about 55 engineers and designers. A lot of them are former Apple colleagues of Ive's, names like Scott Cannon, Evans Hankey, Tang Tan.
Yeah.
So serious design and engineering chops coming over.
Right, bringing that Apple DNA, perhaps. Yeah. How's the integration working? Is Ive joining OpenAI?
Interestingly, no, not directly. IO itself is merging with OpenAI. They'll work closely together in San Francisco. But Ive's own firm, LoveFrom, will actually handle the creative and design work across all of OpenAI's projects, software included.
So LoveFrom becomes like OpenAI's embedded design partner. That's quite a structure.
It is. And apparently this isn't out of the blue. Ive and OpenAI's CEO, Sam Altman, they've been collaborating for about 2 years.
2 years already?
Yeah. Sharing this vision for completely new kinds of AI-powered consumer devices. Altman talks about tools combining tech, design, and understanding people. He's quoted saying, "This feels like the culmination of his whole 30-year design career. High stakes, high ambition."
Definitely sounds like it. Any hints about what this first device might be?
They're targeting a 2026 launch and calling it, well, a totally new kind of thing, explicitly saying it's not like existing smartphones.
Okay, color me intrigued. A totally new thing. That'll get people talking.
It already is. Apple stock actually dipped about 2.2% after the news broke. Investors might be seeing real competition brewing in AI hardware.
So the big takeaway here is OpenAI isn't just staying in the cloud. They're serious about building the physical things we'll use to interact with AI.
Precisely. Integrating top-tier hardware design right into their core AI mission. It could really shake things up.
Okay, fascinating start. Let's move to story number 2. Google.
Yes, Google. They just had their big I/O conference, and they laid out a pretty comprehensive AI strategy.
They're positioning themselves as ahead of Apple, even OpenAI, because of how deeply they can weave AI into everything they do.
That's the argument, yeah. Their massive ecosystem search, Android, Chrome, Workspace, gives them a unique advantage. They can embed AI everywhere.
How are they doing that? What are the key pieces?
Well, a big one is Gemini 2.5. This is the model set to replace Google Assistant. The promise is it'll be much more proactive, more context-aware than Assistant ever was.
So not just reacting to commands, but anticipating needs, maybe.
Something like that. And then there's Gemini Live. This evolved out of Project Astra, which they showed before. It uses your phone's camera, voice recognition, and all of Google's web knowledge
to understand and answer questions about what you're seeing in real time.
Exactly. Like point your phone at something and ask questions about it. It's very dynamic.
That sounds powerful. And you're saying their advantage is connecting all these dots.
Right. Having search, maps, your calendar, your email, Chrome, all potentially feeding context to Gemini. That seamless integration across so many touch points is something competitors might struggle to match.
Yeah, OpenAI has the powerful models, but not the distribution platform like Android or Chrome.
Precisely. And Apple, while obviously huge in hardware and software, seems a bit behind on integrating their AI models quite this deeply across the board, at least based on what's public.
So Google's examples are things like an AI mode in search.
Yeah, for more conversational searching. And Gemini being embedded right in Chrome so it can understand the web page you're on, maybe summarize it or answer questions using your personal context if you allow it.
They're really going for that assistant layer, making AI just part of the background fabric of using their products.
That seems to be the goal. And they're claiming significant traction already, over 400 million monthly active users for Gemini in various forms, plus a growing subscriber base for the premium versions.
So it's not just talk. People are actually using this stuff.
It seems so. The key takeaway for Google is this deep, ecosystem-wide integration strategy. They want AI to be indispensable to their users.
Okay, from the big tech giants to the brain. Story number 3 takes us to research inspired by biology.
Yes, this is work coming out of Cornell University. Researchers there are developing brain-inspired AI models specifically for processing sensory data really efficiently.
Efficiently, meaning low power. Fast.
Both, ideally. The main goal is to create robotic systems that can handle real-time sensory input, like detecting smells for hazardous materials, or processing visual data for autonomous systems without needing huge amounts of energy.
And they're looking at the human brain because it's so good at this.
Incredibly good. Think about how effortlessly we process sights, sounds, smells all at once, filtering out noise, focusing on what matters. And our brain does it using surprisingly little power.
Professor Thomas Cleland at Cornell mentioned the brain's ability to handle even degraded or incomplete sensory input, right? That's a good model for robots in messy real-world environment.
Exactly. So the approach is called neuromorphic design, trying to mimic the brain's structure and function.
And they're focusing specifically on the sense of smell, the olfactory system.
That's right. They're studying how the olfactory epithelium, where we first detect smells, and the olfactory bulb in the brain process that information so efficiently. It's a model system for understanding sensory processing.
Why is that needed? Don't current AI models handle sensory data?
They do, but as one of the researchers, Roy Moyle, pointed out, current AI often requires massive computational resources, lots of energy. The idea here is to create lightweight, autonomous AI agents.
Agents that could process data locally, on the robot itself.
Yes, reducing the need to send vast amounts of raw sensory data back. Think environmental monitoring sensors or maybe security systems.
So a shift towards AI that's not just powerful, but also efficient and autonomous, inspired by biology.
That's the key insight, learning from the brain's efficiency for real-world sensory tasks.
Very cool. All right, number 4, let's talk animation. AI is getting into cartoons.
It certainly is. Generative AI, things like large language models and diffusion models, the tech behind image generators, are starting to transform parts of the animation industry, especially traditional cell animation.
Cell animation, like hand-drawn style. How is AI automating that?
In several ways. Tedious tasks like in-betweening, drawing all the frames between the main poses to create smooth movement, that's something AI is getting good at. Also colorization and even helping generate initial storyboard ideas.
Okay, I can see how that would speed things up, potentially lower costs too.
Definitely. The promise is streamlining production, making it more cost-efficient, and maybe even democratizing it a bit.
Democratizing, how so?
By making powerful tools more accessible. Smaller studios or even independent creators might be able to produce higher quality animation than they could before. There are platforms popping up like Anadoc, Tooncraft, or Anasora.
User-friendly tools for AI animation.
That seems to be the idea, making it easier to integrate AI into the workflow.
What about the artists? Is this displacing human animators? And does the art lose something?
Yes. Those are the big concerns. There's definitely worry about job displacement for roles focused on those more repetitive tasks, and also about potentially homogenizing artistic styles if everyone uses similar AI tools.
Can AI really replicate the nuance, the creativity and emotional depth a human animator brings?
That's the debate. Current AI still has limitations there. Consistency in visuals, maintaining a coherent style across a project, conveying subtle emotion. Those are still challenges. Plus, you have ethical considerations around copyright and style mimicry.
So it's a double-edged sword. Efficiency and accessibility on one side?
And concerns about artistry, jobs, and homogenization on the other. But it also opens up new creative possibilities, blending human talent with AI capabilities.
The industry needs to find a balance then, leveraging AI without losing the artistic soul.
That's the challenge they're facing. The key takeaway is that AI is undeniably changing animation workflows, bringing benefits but also real questions about the future of the art form.
Okay, one final story. This one sounds a bit more philosophical maybe. The opacity of AI.
Yeah, this comes from an article by Jonathan Zittrain, focusing on the black box problem with large language models like GPT, Claude, Llama, and others.
Black box meaning we don't really know how they do what they do.
Pretty much. These models can write amazing text, code, analyze things. They seem fluent, almost human-like, But even their creators don't fully understand the internal processes, how they connect inputs to outputs, why they make certain decisions.
That sounds slightly concerning. If we don't know how they work, how can we trust them? Or know if they're biased?
That's exactly the concern. Because they learn from vast amounts of data, they inevitably pick up patterns, associations, and potentially biases embedded in that data. Without transparency, it's hard to know what assumptions the AI is making.
Are people working on making them less opaque? Trying to peek inside the box?
Yes, there's a growing field of AI interpretability. Researchers are finding ways to identify features within models that seem to correspond to real-world concepts.
Like,
Things like gender stereotypes, concepts related to socioeconomic status, age. Researchers have found neurons or patterns in models like Claude and Llama that activate for these kinds of concepts.
and those hidden assumptions could influence the AI's responses.
In real time, yes. Affecting recommendations, summaries, maybe even the tone of generated text, all based on these embedded, often stereotypical associations it's learned.
So Zittrain's point is, we need
Yeah.
what? More transparency, protections.
He argues for establishing norms and safeguards, advocating for transparency, perhaps allowing users to see and even correct the assumptions an AI might be making about them.
See the AI's profile of you. That's interesting.
Yeah, and more broadly, emphasizing ethical design, making sure these increasingly influential AI systems align with societal values, especially as they become more personalized and embedded in decision-making.
It feels urgent, doesn't it? As these systems get woven into everything, we need to scrutinize them.
Absolutely. Oversight, fairness, accountability, they become crucial. The key takeaway is that this opacity, this lack of understanding of AI's inner workings, raises fundamental questions about bias, trust, and user protection that we need to address.
Wow. Okay, that's a lot to think about. So, a quick run through again. OpenAI buying Jony Ive's startup for AI hardware.
Google integrating AI deeply across its entire ecosystem.
Brain-inspired AI aiming for energy efficiency and sensory processing.
AI changing the game in the animation industry, for better and worse.
And finally, the ongoing challenge of understanding what AI models actually know or assume about us.
It really shows how fast AI is moving and how many different areas it's touching.
It really does. And it leaves you wondering, doesn't it? As AI gets deeper into our lives, the devices we might use, the cartoons we might watch, even the silent judgments made about us, what's our role, what's our responsibility, and making sure it develops ethically and, actually benefits everyone.
That's the big question hanging over all of this development.
Something to chew on. Thanks for taking this deep dive into today's AI news with us.